To run a yield test on clarified butter, we'll start with 1 pound of whole butter. Experience tells me I can get a 75 to 80% yield when I clarify butter. Here are a few of the reasons why we clarify butter and the 3 methods to process. Of course, it's easiest just to buy it outright. To prepare for a clarified butter yield test, we'll tear the scale and weigh the whole butter, place it into a pot, and take it to the stove to begin the process. I'll process the butter by melting it over a medium heat and bringing it to a simmer 3 times with a rest period in between each simmer. This is the first full simmer. You can see the foam rising to the top and collecting. These are the milk solids and salt contained within the whole butter. As I simmer it, these will rise up, the milk solids will cook and begin to sink to the bottom. This is the second simmer. As the spoon moves the foam, you can begin to see the butter's clarity. This is the third simmer. As the spoon drags the solids to the side, you can see even greater clarity. At this point, you could continue to simmer it and take it further to the brown or black butter stage. It will get there quickly. This is the point where you need to be sure to watch it closely. After the final rest, we can determine our yield. I'll pour the butter into the measuring cup to note the yield. It is looking a little cloudy, but it'll settle as it's allowed to rest. See, what remains in the pot are the cooked milk solids. I'll skim off what remains, and I'll keep the milk solids for another use. They're a great flavor boost to smash potatoes or to toss with vegetables that they've been finished cooking. As I pour the butter to get the weight, you can see the remaining impurities. After processing, we're left with about 11.5 ounces of edible portion or clarified butter. We'll employ the standard yield factor formula to determine our yield from whole butter to clarified butter to be about 72%. To know what a pound of clarified butter will cost me, I'll divide $3.25 a pound by 72% to get $4.51 a pound. This I can then determine into a price per ounce and use it in costing recipes. Every cook and chef should have a base knowledge of ingredient yields to know what to purchase and to have on hand, as well as knowing how much edible portion is required to prepare standard recipes. Without it, one runs the risk of having too much on hand or not enough to take care of business. A recipe will tell you what yield knowledge is required based on the ingredients and how it's written. You can see my examples here. As we go through processing apples, potatoes, and carrots, we do so based on what the recipe tells us or how it is written. For example, if a recipe states 10 pounds of peeled carrots, I'll need to know the yield to determine how many pounds of carrots I'll need to start with. If I need 10 pounds of carrots peeled, then I start with just 10 pounds of carrots and then proceed to peel. For a yield on peeled apples, We record the beginning weight, peel the apples, and get the processed weight, or the edible portion, or EP. I'm not going to put you through peeling all of these apples. Here are the peelings and the peeled apples. Since I'm making applesauce, I'll remove the core. Getting the weights of the EP and the trim. To summarize for apples, we started with 27.5 ounces, a peeled yield of 19.75 ounces for a yield factor of 0.715 or 71.5%. We determined this by dividing EP by AP. For 10 pounds of peeled apples, I'll need to start with 13.98 pounds of whole apples. For yield on peeled potatoes, we record the beginning weight, peel the potatoes, and get the processed weight or edible portion. I have 32.25 ounces of peeled potatoes, I have 5 ounces of potato peelings. For diced potatoes, I'll begin with the peeled and processed potatoes, with a special note that I did start with 37.5 ounces of unpeeled potatoes, which is my original weight. There is a lot of waste when dicing potatoes on the face of it, but any good culinarian will know to hold the scraps for another application to maximize product value. Out of the 32.5 ounces of potatoes, I have 12 ounces of diced potatoes. The waste weighs in at 20.25 ounces, plus the 5 ounces of peelings for a total waste factor of 25.25 ounces. To summarize, I started with 2.34 pounds of potatoes, peeling them for an 87% yield, then diced them to glean a 32% yield, hoping the cook that diced the potatoes put them in water for later use, so it's not a total loss. For the yield on peeled carrots, we record the beginning weight, peel the carrots, and get the processed weight, or the edible portion. We'll remove the tops and the root base. Peeled and trimmed weight is 22¼ ounces. Trimmings are 5¾ ounces. These can be washed and used for stock later. In summary, I started with 28 ounces of carrots, or 1.75 pounds. Peeled and trimmed, gleaned 22.25 ounces, or 1.39 pounds. Standard formula sees me with a 79% yield on peeled carrots.